How's it going, guys? It's Imp King Mage. I've been getting a lot of requests recently for a 4'ticking tutorial, so I figured I'd take it upon myself to show you guys how some of the new spells work since the release, seeing as I haven't seen another tutorial come out for it. Show you guys how I've been using it, and hopefully you all will learn something. Um, but before we get started, a couple disclaimers. This is just the way I use the new spells. So if, and this isn't to say that this is the absolute best rotation that I'm going to teach you today. This isn't to say that um, this is exactly how you should be using the spells. This is just how I use the spells. And I main mage, so I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so first we need to get into 4-tick auto-attacking or 4-ticking basics. What is 4-ticking? So 4-ticking is a tick manipulation in RuneScape that allows you to cast an auto-attack from your wand and orb or from your staff before queuing the next ability in your rotation at the cost of a game tick. So generally, if you're casting abilities with your dual wield, uh, you're going to be able to do one ability every 3 game ticks. So if I queue just 2 through 4 here, if I do Dragon's Breath, Corrupt, and Impact, it should be every 3 game ticks that I am able to queue the next ability. But with 4-ticking, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try and weave in an auto attack, in this case just for demonstration purposes, Air Surge, in between every single one of those abilities. Now, if you were on full manual and you were just to target something, it would start auto attacking just using those Air Surges. And then you would have to manually click the next ability. But what you can do is if you queue manually Air Surge right in the global cooldown of your abilities, you can immediately queue the next ability and it's going to fire Air Surge and the next ability at the exact same time at with a loss of a single game tick. So, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use Dragon's Breath, then I'm going to step off, and then I'm going to queue Air Surge right before I queue Corruption Blast. So if I use Dragon's Breath, step off, and then I'm going to click Air Surge and Corruption Blast. And if you saw that, I clicked them right after each other, like in rapid succession. And Air Surge fired and Corrupt hit at the exact same time. I'll try and show you guys that again, but in this time I'll do Impact. So, Dragon's Breath, Air Surge, and an Impact. Now, when you're camping dual wield, you can actually cast a spell in between every single ability as long as it is not a channeled ability, such as Concentrated Blast, Asphyxiate, or Tendrils, which I never use as it is. But if you switch after using a single ability to your staff, and then in the global cooldown still use your auto attack, then the next ability, the auto attack is going to hit significantly harder because it is coming from the staff. So, what you're trying to do is every other ability, when it is optimal, 4-tick an auto attack after swapping to your staff and then using the next ability. For now, I would really recommend just practicing queuing a air surge in between every single dual wield ability, uh, so that way you get used to the timing uh, for 4-ticking, and then try adding the swap to your staff every other ability. So uh, now that I've gone over that, I'm going to show you guys the new spells, and then we'll go over a couple rotations, and hopefully, yeah, hopefully this will get you guys started in 4'ticking. One more thing before we get started. A lot of people ask me where I place my keybinds for 4'ticking, and what I personally do is have the auto attacks keybound on my right hand on my mouse with a dedicated button, so that way I can hit the auto attack right before my left hand cues an ability on my keyboard. And that just makes it really, really easy for me to make sure that I hit my air surge keybind right before I hit my next ability. That just makes it super, super easy to 4'tick. But uh, I've seen a lot of people try and put their air surge keybind or their spell keybind somewhere close to their hand on near their abilities and on their keyboard, and it just doesn't normally work, I've seen, because sometimes you have to stretch your hand quite a bit between that spell and whatever ability it is that you're about to use. So I would just recommend putting your basic abilities on 1 through 7 is what I have mine on, but whichever, I would recommend your basic abilities just be very, very close to wherever your left hand rests normally on your keyboard. Mine rests right above WASD because I still use WASD to rotate my camera. And then I have my basic abilities right above that on 1 through 7, and then my thresholds right next to that on TFCG, V, and B. And then I have my ultimates and whatnot actually back on my right hand mouse, which I can definitely go over in another video. But today I am just trying to explain the new spells and how to use them for ticking. So let's move on. Okay, so let's just go through the new spells individually and talk about them first. So Smoke Cloud. Smoke Cloud is just the ancient vulnerability. And it is ridiculously powerful for mage users. As you can see by the bottom of its description, it does not have as much of an effect for range or melee users, but it is still ridiculously powerful, and it is stackable with the debuff vulnerability as well. So, I personally, going into any boss fight or scenario anymore, I personally will use a spellbook swap into vulnerability and then immediately follow it by using Smoke Cloud. And this just gives me a really, really nice hit chance and debuffs the boss quite a bit. So, yeah, if you already know how to use the vulnerability spell, um, then this is just Ancient Vul, and it lasts for twice as long. Alright, so the next spell in the lineup is Animated Dead. Now, there have been quite a few tutorials on how to use Animated Dead, and I don't think I need to go into how to use it in this tutorial, seeing as this is a 4'ticking tutorial. But Animated Dead is an awesome spell that, if used in combination with tank gear, it gives you a crazy, crazy damage reduction. And I would definitely recommend playing with it. There's obviously tutorials out there now for how to use it to AFK God Wars Dungeon 2. I may or may not leave some links to those tutorials by other creators in the description below. But that is definitely an awesome new spell, and if you guys want to pause it and read the effects of it on screen now, you can, but I am going to move on. The next spell is Exenguate, or however you're supposed to say it. I always have issues with the pronunciations in this game, but it is an extremely hard hitting spell that I use for 4'ticking in combination with the final spell, Incite Fear. For 4'ticking with the new spells, you actually want to have both of these last two keybound to your mouse, as I was talking about earlier, on two different keys, so that way you can use them interchangeably and swap back and forth during your 4'ticking rotation. So that way you can keep the stacks of both of these spells up. But let's first just go over the spells. So Exenguate is an extremely powerful fire spell. On ability cast, gain a stack of Blood Tithe, maximum stack of 12, for 20 seconds. Each stack of Blood Tithe increases basic ability damage by 1%. At 12 stacks, your Rack ability transforms into Rack and Ruin. Now, Rack and Ruin is why I love this new ability. It transforms Rack, which, if you used to 4'tick, you already know is a pretty hard hitting ability in the first place, if combined with either Ice Barrage or a stun ability of some sort. And now it's gotten an even bigger buff. So, if I build stacks using just Exenguate, you're going to see, after it hits 12 stacks up on my buff bar, you're going to see Rack turn into Rack Moon. Build all the way up. And so now it is Rack and Ruin. Now, Rack and Ruin does a couple of things. One, it is your hardest hitting basic ability once it is transformed, and hits for 60 to 300 ability damage. If the target is stun or bound, however, it does 120 to 360 ability damage, which means it can still be combined with an ice rack to pull the most amount of damage out of it as you can without having to actually use a stun first. So if you want to be completely extra, you can actually have 3 or 4 different mage spells keybound on your mouse and use them to do ridiculous rotations, which we will get into more towards the end of the video. The other thing about Rack and Ruin, as you can see at the bottom of this description, is that it actually increases the duration of your combust ability, which helps then build back up the stacks for Rack and Ruin with Exenguate. So that is just really, really overpowered, and you can keep the boss bleeding the majority of the fight if you rotate these properly with Corruption and Combust and Rack and Ruin. But that is the new Exenguate spell. The final spell in the lineup is Incite Fear. Incite Fear reduces the the cost of Tsunami, as well as every time it hits 5 stacks, it releases a giant 5x5 area of effect damage, which 5x5 can hit up to 8 additional targets, I believe, um, besides the one that you are initially hitting. And this is just absolutely fantastic for all areas of elite dungeons where you are taking on mobs, or for slaying, if you're using it for Slayer and just trying to AFK a giant Slayer area. But yeah, this is, if you keep the stacks of both of these up, however, during a boss fight, it gives you access to both Tsunami and Rack and Ruin, which is what you want to be doing. You want to be keeping the stacks of both in Exenduate and Incite Fear up at all times. And we will get into that in the next section. For the last section of this video, I'm going to be going over exactly how to rotate the spells and exactly how I do it. I personally have on my right hand mouse, I have both the Exenduate and the Incite Fear spells keybound, so that way I can hit them every other ability uh, while I'm 4'ticking. So that way the stacks build for both of these spells and give me access to my harder hitting abilities like Rack and Ruin, I mean, and then Tsunami for a lot lower adrenaline. So, the way I do this is I do my building rotation, which basically are the basics here from left to right, but prioritizing Sonic Wave when I'm wielding a two-hand before every single bleed and every single channeled ability, and then prioritizing Concentrated Blast between every single hitting ability that has a critical hit chance. Um, and as long as you're rotating back and forth and using either Concentrated Blast or Sonic Wave before the abilities that get boosted by them, you're going to be doing a lot more damage than if you just let Revolution keep going from left to right. Um, so then I also am 4'ticking. Every other time I 4'tick, I either do Exenduate or I do Incite Fear. So that way the stacks for both spells build during my building rotation, and then I can release them during the DPS rotation. Um, and then start building them back up and continue. And I'll show you what I mean by this, and I'll show you guys the stacks building, and hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. So I always start with a concentrated blast, but I'm going to start calling concentrated blasts just conk from here on out, so that it helps with the explanation. So abbreviated concentrated blast, I'm just called conk. So start with conk, and then do a dragon's breath, 4-tick into a sonic wave, corrupt, conk, impact, 4-tick the other one into a combust, conk, dragon's breath, 4-tick again, and just keep going. So now you can see that the stacks for both of these have built, and I only have to use that spell again once every 20 seconds from the last time I casted it, which gives me access to both Tsunami for only 40 or 30 adrenaline, and then it gives me access to Rack and Ruin, which is a basic ability that hits crazy hard with Exenduate. And that is how I build. But then there is also DPS rotations, which if you are using Tsunami inside of a Sunshine and Rack and Ruin inside of Sunshine while keeping those stacks up, you are going to hit crazy, crazy hard. So I am going to do a full rotation real quick and do a fully boosted damage rotation to show you guys kind of what I do. Now, I have quite a bit of swaps and perks and whatnot, so if you don't have everything I have on me or in my inventory, do not worry. Your rotation's not going to look exactly like this, but as long as you keep in mind the damage boosting basics and the spells while you are putting together your rotations with whatever setup you currently have, you should still do a lot more damage than if you were just letting Revolution go. So, here's that rotation. And that wasn't even perfect, but uh, I didn't have my Ring of Vigor, I didn't have my adrenaline or overload or anything like that ready, but um, I hope this tutorial helps you, and I hope this helps you with your 4'ticking. I hope this helps you with the new spells. Uh, Thanks for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. And until next time, hang in there.